These are two simple ways to help save the planet, which everybody can do.
This is a trash mound near the size of the Taj Mahal, which is extremely frightening, seeing that the majority of that is just everyday items.
At the beginning of this project, I got an American Girl doll magazine in the mail. Now I'm 13. Should I really be getting an American Girl doll catalog? I'm sure there might be some teenager somewhere who still likes to play with dolls. Definitely not me.
I love tea. My family loves tea. It's one of my favorite drinks. I like loose leaf tea more than tea bags personally, but I usually don't drink the loose leaf tea because it's so hard to find and inconvenient to go to the store over the other stores. But wouldn't it be so much more convenient if it was just at the grocery stores?
As some of you know, I love putting healthy and nutritious provisions into my body to help it keep it clean and pure. Tea does exactly that, with a medley of power herbs that ward off any harmful sources. Only recently, I found out how big of an impact these unnoticed tea bags have on the planet. We all have simple items in our life. We all have those little additions that we don't even think about. We are here to talk about how you can reduce and change these everyday items simply. Usually making big differences takes commitment, sacrifices, and hard work. But with these small solutions, anyone can change without that much trouble. They all have big potential if everyone does their part. Just to show you how much of a problem it is, we have a graph showing climate change effects of consumables. Not just the item is causing the problem, but also the process of how it's made, transported, and what's wasted that ends up in landfills.
We all get junk mail. It's annoying and it just gets in the way, and most of us throw it away without even thinking.
Junk mail gets delivered to every house every day, with 4.3 million tons added to landfill every year. Can you imagine that? It's equivalent to 4.3 million semi-trucks.
Every person gets mail, having 33% of that mail be junk mail. Now, why are we dumping all of these crazy numbers on you? But just imagine what these numbers look like. Now, as you can see, this junk pile is mostly mail. And from all the pretty colors and all the packaging that's trying to draw you in, you can see that most of it is junk mail.
Imagine if you kept every piece of junk mail you get in a year. It would fill your house. Have you ever thought about where all that junk mail goes? It doesn't go away. It has to go somewhere.
10 billion pieces of paper are used for junk mail every year. Now just think if you tried to use less paper. What would happen to all of those trees that are getting killed?
A lot of people have the ability to switch to online or can just recycle their junk mail instead. Even if anyone gets junk mail, you can repurpose it, you can reuse it, letter casings, and find out a way to cancel any lettering fees.
Now where does all of this junk mail go? It has to go somewhere, right? You just throw it away without even thinking. Now it can go two places. It can either get incinerated, which lets out all of these harmful chemicals into the atmosphere, contributing to global warming, or it can get thrown into landfills or into the ocean, which completely destroys the ecosystems in which they're being put. If they're thrown into the ocean, all of those fish start eating the trash, thinking that it's food, and then we kill the fish and we eat them, putting all of that plastic into our bodies.
In my experience, my family gets a lot of mail, and a lot of that mail is just an ad for REI or a car you're not going to buy. Judging by the fact that it takes 17 trees to make 1 ton of paper, and the average American uses 650 pounds of paper, it just shows how much junk mail we get.
As you go through your junk mail and have a nice cup of tea, the last thing you are thinking about is how that 1 cup of tea is affecting climate change and adding to the landfills. Tea is often considered very healthy and compact with vitamins. Most people enjoy drinking a nice hot cup of tea when sick, tired, or just every day. The innocent little tea bags filled with flavor and warmth are not as they seem. The tea leaf isn't the problem, it's the tea storing is. Tea goes way back to 200 BC, where it originated in China and India. But Turkey and the UK and more loved it so much they started to make their own tea. Tea bags go way was created by Thomas Sullivan, who was a margin and started sending his customers tea leaves in little silk bags. And the customers just put it in hot water and started to drink it.
So the tea bag was birthed. Ever since then, the tea bag has been changed by many companies, and now instead of the little silk bags it started in, it's mostly made out of synthetic materials. We all know that plastic is bad. It's one of the main contributors to climate change. And we all know that plastic is in a lot of everyday items. But I bet a lot of us don't know that plastic is in a lovely cup of tea. In fact, there are about 11.6 billion microplastics in a single cup of tea. And it's not from the tea leaves itself, it's from the tea bag. How many of you have been to the UK? That's a lot of people. And I'm sure while you were there, you had a nice cup of tea. And I'm sure you weren't realizing that the UK goes through about 61 billion tea bags every year. And there are about 67 million people in the UK. And each one of those people drinks about 2 cups of tea a day. And there are 365 days in a year. Think about it. Those are some really crazy numbers when you put them into life.
About 95% tea bags produced have non-biodegradable plastic and stapled to seal the bag. Those staples in tea bags end up being dumped in landfills, and once there, take thousands of years to decompose due to all the plastic. Tea is great, and many people aren't going to give it up. Fortunately, there are many solutions. First off, we have a compostable tea bag. These solve the problem straight away because they're made out of biodegradable materials, aka plants and trees, and have no traces of microplastics. Even though this may seem like a perfectly fine solution, it requires trees in order for production. Trees are renewable, but are not grown fast and efficiently enough for mass production, resulting in more trees being eliminated than planted.
It's not over for compostable tea bags, though. There are different types of tea bags which are made from cornstarch, cellulose, and other renewable plants. How many of you steep your tea with an infuser? A simpler way of thinking about tea is about this concept of a tea bag at all. Many people steep it using an infuser or strainer in loose leaves. This was one of the original ways of making tea, and to this day it's probably the best. The only waste it creates is the leaves in order to make the tea, which can be easily composted. The infuser can be used over and over again, sure. It's less convenient, but my point is, this needs to change. I will admit that it's not a simple problem. It's a simple problem that anyone can fix without having much impact on their life.
Junk mail takes paper and creates waste. Tea bags have plastic and end up in landfills. These small things are just examples of simple everyday items that have surprisingly big impacts in the world. The littlest of things just pass right through our brains, and the focus is always on the big, ambitious changes happening in the world right now. While these changes can make big breakthroughs all at once, most of us don't have the opportunities, powers, time, or money to help with these.
All we can do is sit at home and watch the action take place on the TV. Or so we think. The tiny little choices we make often go unnoticed and forgotten at the end of the day. But those decisions can web out to have unimaginable impacts. The world-changing effects we can make don't depend on how small the impact is, but on how many people are willing to grow and learn from these mistakes. Don't think we are powerless and hopeless, because out of everybody, the consumers can make some of the most significant changes. We're the ones getting persuaded to buy things that are cheaper and more accessible. But if we can act now as one big unit made of small sources, we have the advantage and could change these ways for good. But in order for this to happen, we all have to pitch in, do our part, and work as a whole. Be the hummingbird.